So today I'm going to talk about the infamous black smear photo on the side of Titanic. There's basically this large black mark on the starboard side of the ship below the forward well deck. People see this and then they hear that there was a coal fire on the starboard side of the ship near where the iceberg actually damaged the ship. And then they put two and two together and assume that the coal fire contributed to the sinking of the ship and accelerated the process. So in this video, I'm going to discuss this topic. So there was a coal bunker fire on the Titanic during its maiden voyage. Coal bunker fires were quite common for the times, and they typically were nothing to really worry about. This bunker that contained this fire was the forward starboard bunker of Boiler Room 5, which is basically directly below the first funnel. If you look at where this black smear exists, it is well forward of the first funnel. It's actually below the forward well deck of the ship. The bunker that was on fire is also well below the waterline, and clearly this black smear is well above the waterline. It's roughly at, F or G deck, whereas the coal bunkers exist basically on the tank level of the ship and the orlop deck, which is well below the waterline. So realistically, this fire was about, I'm just estimating, 80, 90 feet aft or behind where this smear existed, as well as 20 feet below it. So clearly this has absolutely nothing to do with this coal fire. So there have been some documentaries, and I stress the word documentaries because they're basically just a bunch of lies and sensationalist claims, essentially trying to cash in and make a buck, saying that the coal fire was so hot that it damaged the hull and the skin of Titanic and allowed the iceberg to just go right through it like a knife through butter. The problem with this is that Titanic was damaged literally hundreds of feet away from where this coal fire existed. Titanic took damage within 7 watertight compartments. Most people don't realize this, but Boiler Room 4 was damaged, as well as everything in front of that. And this coal fire existed in Boiler Room 5, and it's possible that the heat spread through the bulkhead into Boiler Room 6. But what about the cargo holds and the forepeak? There's obviously no coal fires burning there, and yet that part of the ship was critically damaged by the iceberg as well. So there's that argument. There's also the argument that, there's only 8 or 10, 12 guys working to empty the coal out of this bunker based on Fred Barrett's testimony. These men have no protective equipment. They have no masks. They have no types of special clothing. They have basically shovels and a hose and maybe some carts or buckets, whatever. If this coal fire is so enormous and is just consuming this entire coal bunker and is burning at 1,000 degrees, like some people are claiming, how is anyone able to work in this area? How are men able to get in here and start shoveling coal out? How are hundreds of men walking back and forth in these areas? All the firemen have to walk right past this bunker to get to their quarters when they start their shift and when they end their shift. How come nobody's talking about this? How come at the inquiries, basically the coal fire is discussed for very briefly and then it's dismissed by everyone in charge? It's because they knew that it's absolute rubbish and it has absolutely nothing to do with the sinking of the ship, and it's just a talking point. There's also a swimming pool or a swimming bath right above where this fire existed on F and G deck. How come no passengers are complaining? If this fire is so hot and huge, how is this bath, how can it be used? It would just be boiling water and you wouldn't be able to get into it. There's so many ridiculous claims about this that just don't make any sense. Based on what has been told, it is my opinion that this coal fire was just this smoldering little fire that didn't really result in anything except just some extra work for some of the firemen on each shift. That's basically all it had to be given the circumstantial evidence. Just to add insult to injury, there are people that believe that the fire was burning so hot and for so long that enough heat was transferred to the watertight bulkhead between Boiler Rooms 5 and 6 and caused it to prematurely fail. So the reality is that there's no proof of this. And it's extremely unlikely for reasons I'm not going to get into right now for the sake of the length of this video. And ultimately, even if it did cause the bulkhead to fail prematurely, it wouldn't really have made a difference in terms of the sinking of the ship, as Boiler Room 5 was already flooding in its coal bunker. So now that we have detailed that the black smear is not related to the coal bunker fire, and the fact that the coal bunker fire really had nothing to do with the sinking at all, we can discuss what was that black smear on the side of the ship, because there's clearly something visible in these photos. There are plenty of photos of Titanic that were taken during sea trials as well as its maiden voyage, and this massive black smear just is not visible at all. So what was the black smear? Nothing but shadows. If you look at multiple photos of Titanic during its early days, there are multiple dark spots and imperfections in the photos, which are nothing more than the result of shadows in sunlight and the poor image quality that were the best for the times. So, incredible how that works. Just from a common sense standpoint, the Titanic was marketed as the most luxurious and largest ship in the world. It's supposed to rival the Cunard Line's ships in order to put White Star Line back on top. So it is the White Star Line's future, and their financial hopes basically depend on the success of Titanic. And to think that they're just going to leave this 30-foot blemish, whether it's a scorch mark from a fire, a poor paint job, or some other kind of damage, and they're just going to leave it there for its maiden voyage, and prior to that, when there's literally hundreds, if not thousands of people seeing this ship every single day, taking photographs that are going to circulate literally around the world. And the idea that they're just going to leave this enormous, ugly spot on the side of the ship is beyond ridiculous and just idiotic. So, that's it. Thanks for watching.